with Dave Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City. He writes today that no one understands the NFL's new helmet rule, and he actually throws out a possible solution. And he joins us now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline as the Eagles getting ready for the Cleveland Browns. What's going on, Dave?
Hey, Mike. How's it going?
Everything is good. It's nice to have the Eagles back, and obviously a bunch of storylines for this team coming off the Super Bowl that we'll dive into here. But I think your column about the NFL's helmet rule, let's dive into that first because, man, it seems that the players, the coaches, there's a huge disconnect on this. What have some of the players and coaches told you about the rule, and what have you seen with it through the first 2 weeks of the preseason?
Yeah, they're all just plain confused about it. They don't know what's a penalty, what's not a penalty. Coaches, players, it seems like even the officials don't really know. And I don't either. You're not supposed to lower your head, or you're not supposed to do this and do that. But you touch somebody, you get a penalty. You don't, you get a penalty. It's really confusing to everybody.
Yeah, I know Jim Schwartz, who apparently had worked in the NFL front office in terms of working with the coaches and the rules committee to try to legislate this kind of stuff. Even he kind of came out the other day and seemingly doesn't know where to stand on this. Yeah.
I think their only hope is that this is just like the preseason where they're just trying to lay down the law, trying to scare everybody, and then once the regular season starts, maybe they'll ease back a little bit. I think maybe they're hoping that maybe they're just trying to get everybody's attention. But I think once the real game starts, they can't possibly call it the way they're calling it now. I don't think it's going to take 5 hours to play a game, for one thing.
Yeah, I know last week on our show, former referee Jim Diopoulos was on here, and he kind of suggested that if they're going to do this, you would almost have to bring replay into the equation because, for my money, Dave, it seems that the officials are just throwing flags to err on the side of safety, and that sometimes they're just throwing it because it looks bad, even though there's nothing wrong with the hit. So that if you could go back and at least look at it and say, all right, it looked bad, but I'm going to pull the flag back because it wasn't as bad as it looked to me.
Yeah, that'd be a valid point. Maybe just get another set of eyes and just really look at it. But again, that's going to slow down the game a little bit too. But I don't know. So I don't know what the solution is, except just hope that they're not going to be as strict about it as they have been.
Well, I know reading your column today at thepressofAtlanticCity.com, you had a solution that I have thrown out here for years, which is get rid of the helmet. I know people, as you said, it sounds ludicrous, but guess what? You're not going to tackle with. Your head will not be involved if you have nothing protecting it.
This is true. I mean, it was partly in jest, but when you think about it, like you're not going to lead with your head if you have nothing protecting it. You're not going to, put your head down and try to run anybody over if you don't have a helmet on. So, there is something to be said about that. And then I think maybe the players become more recognizable too. I mean, that's been one of the drawbacks with hockey. I know that nobody can see their faces, so they really don't know what the players look like, and it's for marketing purposes, maybe that would help. But I know it's never going to happen because there's so much that goes into the helmet design and the ads for that too. But I honestly do think it would solve a lot of problems if you just took the helmets out of it.
I agree, and you wrote about Jordan Mailata. I mean, maybe if you don't just go barehead, but maybe some sort of, like they did back when the game started, some sort of leather helmet or padded helmet or something that's obviously like you follow boxing a lot, Dave. You're a Hall of Fame boxing writer. One of the the headgears that the boxers wear.
Yeah, right. Something that maybe protects your ears and stuff, or stuff from cuts and bruises, but is not used as a weapon. That might work, I think.
All right, Dave Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City. Check out his piece on this helmet rule that everybody is kind of trying to figure out. And as you mentioned, now today or yesterday, didn't the NFL kind of meet and they were supposed to kind of go over this, and then essentially they said, all right, we've met and there's going to be no changes?
Yeah, and then they Schwartz gathered all the defensive backs and all the defense, and the league sent them some cut-up clips of what's supposed to be a penalty, what's not, and yeah, I think they're just flying by the seat of their pants almost. I don't know. Maybe they're in so deep that they don't want to. Maybe it's too late to draw back and admit they made a mistake with this. But I'm at a loss about it, to be honest with you.
Dave, you've covered the Eagles. You're going into your 25th year now covering the NFL and the Philadelphia Eagles. Is this
26?
26th, I'm sorry, 26th. All right. 26 years. So my point is, you've been around the block. You've seen a lot of issues and controversy with the league. Is this the craziest offseason that you've experienced? I mean, we're getting callers saying they're not watching. People aren't entertained. This story has taken over the entire preseason. Is the league in a crazy spot right now as far as this helmet rule?
From what I can gather, the people that say they're not going to watch it, I don't think it has anything to do with the helmet rule. I think it's the national anthem thing, and from that viewpoint, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard of. But I don't know what the solution to that is either. I think that it was starting to die down until President Trump kind of brought it back into the forefront again, and now you've got guys, like Malcolm Jenkins and Michael Bennett's thing in the locker room last week, and you got other guys, raising their fists, some guys kneeling, some guys sitting, and I don't know. I personally don't know what that has to do with the game. I mean, I know I understand why they're doing it and what they're doing, but I don't know why fans would be turned off because of that. If you're a fan of the game and you're rooting for a particular team, I don't know that their political stances should affect you one way or the other.
Dave, as Ryan kind of asked about, some people aren't watching because of that. Some people aren't watching for whatever. For me, I said before, I am less entertained by the product. I think the game is just not. Totally. And I think a lot of it is how the game is officiated. And I'm not saying that the officials, maybe I'm saying I have said the officials are poor or bad or not very good at their jobs. But, McMullen has been on here, and he says, look, it's not them. It's the league telling them to officiate games that way, which is neither – which is fine. I am less entertained by the way the game is officiated. So whether that means the officials stink or they don't stink, for me personally, I am not as entertained by these games anymore because I feel that the quality of the game has diminished.
You're talking about based on last season or
just in in recent years. I just think the amount of penalties and for some of the penalties that they call, some of the and I get it, it's for safety. So they're trying to help these guys out, but what's the fine line between a fan saying I can't watch this anymore because I'm not entertained?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they do have to err on the side of caution in terms of to prevent CTE and concussions and the long-term effects of playing this game, what can happen to you. But
do you talk to some of the guys who say, I'm interested in this? Like, do some of the guys say, look, let us sign something or, we're okay? And are there other guys saying, hey, I'm glad they don't let us smash heads like this?
I think they've been playing this game their whole lives. They kind of know what goes into it. And you do see players, you've seen players in the last couple of years, they kind of walk away after a year or two. That they see what can happen, and they just don't want the game's not important enough to them. The money's not important enough for them to stick it out for the risk. But there are others who, the Chris Longs of the world, they love to play the game, and it's not just for the money for them. It's just the fact that they're playing the game they love, and they know what the ramifications are. Everybody does when you go into the NFL. I think you're pretty naive if you don't.
Right.
So, maybe the solution is to sign a waiver or something. I'm not really sure, but from the players that I've talked to, I really haven't seen any indication that they, that they're going to walk away or that they're not afraid, but they're not. I don't see any hesitation or any kind of skepticism about it. That's just me, though. I mean, from the guys that I talk to.
Well, and I think that is something that maybe is evolving of the mindset of the players as they see these new rules come into play, whether they're in kind of unison or a majority saying, look, these rules are ridiculous. You're not letting us play the game the way it's supposed to be played. Or if there's another side, that says, I'm thankful that they are doing this for us because we know this is not going to be 100% on either side.
Right. Well, the new rule, from what, talking to like Jalen Mills and guys like that, they've been taught their whole lives to tackle a certain way, and it's not to spear anybody. This isn't Chuck Cecil's NFL where you're head hunting. This is you can't help but your head go first. I mean, what else is going to go first? Your feet? It just doesn't make any sense. But you just put your head to the side, you hit him with your shoulder pad, and you bring him down. That's the way they've always done it. But apparently now that's not good enough. I don't know what the solution is. You just grab the guy by the jersey, but you can't horse collar him because that's a penalty. So you just kind of maybe wait for the guy to run by and then you try to grab him around the waist. I don't know what the heck you're supposed to do.
Well, let's look at the team itself, Dave. You wrote about it.
Okay.
Foles is set to play. How has Foles looked? I mean, I know he came out in the preseason game. He got hit against the Patriots, did not look good in that game. But from what you've seen, Foles is such an interesting guy. 27-2, then he's run out of town. He's traded. He stinks.
Right.
He can't play for the Rams. He was going to quit. He was going to retire. He goes to the Chiefs. Now he's here. He's the Super Bowl MVP. Who is this guy?
I think what you're seeing now and what you saw last year is the real Nick Foles. That 27-2 was tremendous, but he wasn't ready for all that came with that. I mean, you could tell it by the interviews that he did going into the next training camp, where the whole thing just kind of overwhelmed him. He wasn't prepared to deal with the stardom and the notoriety and all the attention, I don't think. Now, I think he kind of he's more mature. He's a family guy now, and he just seems more settled and more like self-confident in his ways and in his play too on it. And that's the way he conducts himself, like on and off the field now. And I think there's an aura of confidence there that wasn't there before. And I think you're going to see that, if and when he, as long as he gets to play out there.
Your thought on where Wentz is, because it seemed that many people thought he wouldn't play. Then it was,
right.
Wow, he was out there running around. He is going to play. Now it's starting to sound like there's some more doubt whether he will play in 2 Thursdays from now.
If I were a betting man, I'd say he's not playing.
Really? Wow.
Just because of the fact that the caution that they've exhibited, they let him play at 11 and 11s, but that's, then they withheld him and they put him back. And I just think they're so conscious of him. I don't want to say getting hurt again. That's probably not right. But I think they're adamantly that he has to be absolutely 100%. And 99.9 is not good enough. And if you play Foles against the Falcons, that gives you an extra 10 days to allow Wentz to get ready. And that just from my sense, I think that's the direction they're going to go.
Dave, talk about
No, you've been 100% right for 26 years. You've
Dave,
never gotten one wrong.
It's been 26 years, Dave. Come on, man.
You might want to talk to some of the people after I picked the Vikings to beat the Eagles last year.
No, we're just going to focus. We're not going to talk to anyone else but you. So a storyline, Dave, that I don't think gets enough publicity is Mike Groh being the new offensive coordinator, promoted from wide receivers coach. Are you fearing any type of a lack of continuity, at least early into the season or possibly throughout the season, with Frank Reich going over to the Colts?
Honestly, no, because this is Doug Peterson's offense. I mean, you can put whoever you want as offense coordinator. It's Doug's offense. He's the one that runs everything. It's probably there probably was a little bit of a transition. I would think more in the quarterback room with Press Taylor being the quarterback's coach. That might have been more of instead of DeFilippo, that might have been caused more of a little bit of a change because you're dealing directly with a position coach, but. As far as offensive coordinator, I don't think it's going to be that drastic. At least I haven't sensed it. The lack of continuity, though, is just because of the way they've been going about things. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey hasn't practiced yet. Carson Wentz is in, then he's out. Now Jay Ajayi's on the sidelines. Corey Clemens getting the rest. So you really haven't seen the entire offense together in sync yet, and that's the reason for the concern, I think, more than anything else.
Yeah, and you wrote about, Vaitai, Super Bowl hangover, kind of saying,
gosh.
Hey, I wasn't ready. I can't amp myself up. I mean, do you see a not lackadaisical, but do you see, I look at that Hard Knocks. I don't know if you're watching the Hard Knocks, Dave, but the episode last week when the running back coach and Haley, the coordinator, both are saying, look, we're not good enough to be sitting in street clothes. These guys need to practice. And Hugh Jackson's essentially saying, hey, I've been in your seats. I need those guys on the field. So are you looking at a team that has a bunch of guys in street clothes that maybe are just in street clothes because, we won the Super Bowl last year?
No, I don't think so. I think this is Doug Peterson's way of he said from the get-go that his sole focus is on getting ready for the regular season. That and I guess maybe because of the byproduct of winning the Super Bowl, they started training camp a week later than they normally would have. He gives the older guys, time off on purpose. I don't think it's the players that want to sit out. I think it's Doug just making sure that everybody's rested and ready. Like there's no freak injury in practice, no freak injury in one of the preseason games, to like the Darren Foles or Jason Peters, the guys who are coming off of injuries for one. But I think that they should have been. Well, I can't. It's far be it from me to criticize Doug. I mean, he actually just won the Super Bowl, but I would think they would have maybe wanted like the entire offense out there for a half this Thursday instead of no Darren Sproles, no Jason Peters, no Corey Clement, no Jay Ajayi. I would think I would want those guys out there to maybe even just in practice, just to be able to form some sort of chemistry that, carrying over into the regular season.
Dave, I know we're only halfway through the preseason, but who's been the biggest surprise for you so far, and who's been the biggest disappointment?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. Well, I'm gonna encapsulate training camp in there too.
Yeah, definitely.
Camus Grugier-Hill's probably been the biggest surprise to me. Everybody seems to regard him as just a special teams guy, and he's a very good one. But he's kind of worked his way into the mix at linebacker too, and he's performed very well both in practices and in the preseason. So he'd be the guy that I probably have kind of opened some eyes. Disappointment, boy, that's tough. Because like some of these guys don't even practice. So, you know what? I would also throw Sheldon Gibson in there too as a surprise.
Yeah,
he's been a major rebound from last year. I mean, he was terrible. Disappointment. I'm going to go with Donnell Pumphrey.
I was going to throw Pumphrey away just because it seemed like he was kind of getting like a redshirt year last year, and now just can't even get on the field.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's no fault of his. I mean, he does have a legitimate hamstring injury, but he came back from the off season. He was bigger. He was faster. He looked pretty good. He had spent some time working out with Darren Sproles out in San Diego, and had gone through like a grueling conditioning program with him. And he seemed ready to really prove himself. And then, these nagging injuries start popping up again, and he can't get on the field. So, they seem to think that he has real potential, but you just haven't seen it yet.
All right, that'll be one of the battles to watch, the running back situation, and obviously a couple of other ones. Tomorrow we should see it seems that every year, Dave, they pull the starters back more and more in this third game. This used to be the one that you would get like a full half, but it seems that they're even pulling back from that these days.
Yeah. The teams themselves, they don't really like the preseason much. And Doug kind of he treats it more like an audition for the younger players, and there is something to that. I mean, you're not only trying to play for roster spots, but like I was actually talking to Joe Callahan about this the other day, that you're playing for the Eagles, but you're also playing for 31 other teams.
Yeah,
that you hope that, because the chances of making the Eagles are pretty tough. Mm-hmm. So, but if you can play well enough that some other scout from other team notices, then you get an opportunity to go to another camp, and something might pan out that way. So I think that's what the preseason really should be about, to be honest with you. Like, everybody knows who can play and who can't. I mean, as far as starters go, and veterans, they don't really need that much to. They're getting in shape through practices and through training camp, not through preseason games necessarily.
All right, Dave, looking forward to another season. The Eagles, of course, Thursday night right here on 97.3 ESPN. Thanks, pal.
Oh, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it as always.